And we remain in the region, but set our sights to Pakistan, which is hosting talks with Afghanistan, China, and the U.S., looking to form a roadmap towards a peace agreement between Kabul and the Taliban. The talks come amid an intense winter campaign by the Taliban, which some observers claim is an attempt to gain greater concessions during any future direct talks. In recent weeks, the Taliban has won territory in Sinjin in the southern province of Helmand. A first round of talks between the Taliban and the Afghani government were held in July but collapsed, and the group is now plagued by infighting, and it is not clear who will take part in future rounds. Well, the presence of China and the U.S. put pressure on the sides to begin talking. To hear more about it in studio, still with us is I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Thanks, Ali. But first, let's watch the following report.
Talks began Monday in Islamabad, Pakistan, between 4 different countries with the aim of facilitating a peace deal between the government of Afghanistan and the Taliban. The Taliban itself is not represented at the talks for now, while officials from the Afghan government, the United States, China, and Pakistan are.
The primary objective of reconciliation process is to create conditions to bring the Taliban group to the negotiating table and offer them incentives that can persuade them to move away from using violence as a tool for pursuing political goals.
Though a negotiation effort is underway, the Taliban is very much on the offensive, making territorial gains recently in the southern Helmand province, as well as conducting a series of attacks in the capital, Kabul. Many see this as an effort to gain leverage in the talks, and there has been speculation that Taliban leader Mullah Mansour could eventually give the go-ahead for the group's official participation in the process. Islamabad has influence over certain factions of the Taliban, and indeed some of the group's leadership is thought to be in Pakistan.
Threat of the use of military action against irreconcilables cannot precede the offer of talks to all the groups and their response to such offers. It is therefore important that preconditions are not attached to the start of the negotiation process. This, in our view, will be counterproductive.
Pakistan will likely be looking to persuade the Afghan government to cool relations with its rival, India, before applying any serious pressure on the Taliban. Meanwhile, one faction that is splintered off from the Taliban has rejected any sort of foreign involvement in the peace process, Pakistani or otherwise. The road ahead is likely a long one.
So, Ali, what's at stake here in these talks, and what's the motivation for the Taliban to enter them?
I think the most interesting thing, Meredith, is the split within Taliban that we saw in the end of the report, and the threat that is starting to be presented by ISIS. ISIS is gaining more ground in Afghanistan. ISIS is gaining more influence inside the Taliban, and pragmatic leadership of Taliban sees as the Afghani street that was very much coexisting in the negative perspective with this situation in Afghanistan, feel that ISIS is even worse than all the 20 or 30 years of war that they've been living, and the atrocities by Taliban. So in order as part of internal discussions and fights and rivalities in the Taliban leadership went to this initiative, plus the fear that the Islamic State will be a major actor in Afghanistan, is demanding a kind of collaboration between the government and between the Taliban.
And how did the talks go yesterday? And talk about the U.S. and Chinese involvement. How does that aid the situation?
For the moment, nobody can anticipate a breakthrough in the talks, and I think for the moment, Meredith, the Taliban is still insisting on not giving up his arms, on not giving back to the government territories that he is controlling, but they are discussing formulas that will accept the Taliban as representatives in some local areas, which mean that the government for the first time is accepted that the Taliban will share some rule and power in specific areas.
But how they will perhaps become a part of the unity government is another issue altogether.
Absolutely.
Ali Waqid, thank you so much for being here.